Hello folks, and welcome to Let the Flow Happen. This is the shorter version. There is a longer version on patreon.com/CJoy Yoga. I'm Crystal Joy Johnson of CJoy Yoga. Hello. Holla. So this class is going to be a lot about the sacrum and the low back. The main complaint that I have gotten from people kind of this whole year, but particularly right now, has been really sensitive, sore low backs, tight outer hips, SI joint issues, and sciatica. These kinds of things are flaring up. I think in part because we're sitting a heck of a lot more and we're not as active, and then whether you not believe in the woo-woo side, I really don't like that word for it, but you know, we have the sacral chakra, which it governs all of our emotions, and it's been a pretty emotional year. So that is your lumbar plexus, literally the bundle of nerves. This is medical science, the bundle of nerves that sit in that lumbar area. So we're going to work in there. As you can see, I have a blanket. I have it spread out. You can simply have it across your mat and make it a little thicker, but we are going to bring our belly, bringing our knees out to the side, and since I have hardwood floor, I want an extra layer of cushion underneath my knee when it moves to the side. So you might click pause, set yourself up, and then get yourself into an upright position to begin the class. So, finding that nice tall spine. The shoulders, we don't want them rounded forward, but we also don't want them shoved back. They're in that Goldilocks position, just right. We want the spine to be long, but we don't want all of the muscles to be really rigid. We want the belly to be soft so that the diaphragm can literally move down into the abdominal cavity to pull air in our lungs. And then check in and do that scan that I often do on your own pace, your own time, but checking in and making sure that muscles that don't need to be working aren't. Save that energy for something else, please. But also sensations, right? I do a lot of sensation awareness in classes. The more in touch we are with what's called our interoceptive sense, our awareness of what's happening in our body. There are studies now about how this helps our body regulate itself, how it eases us away from anxiety and depression, how it can help us in healthier lifestyle choices. So what's happening in there today? And then one last thing I want to bring up before we open our eyes, and that is, I want you to imagine as we move today that you are of water. And an image that helps me a lot is if I think of myself as kelp. And I don't know if you've ever seen a kelp forest underwater. If you have not watched My Octopus Teacher on Netflix, oh, watch it, it's so good. It takes place in a kelp forest. But these kelp, right, they're being whoosh-washed by the ocean. They're in constant motion, and yet they're moored to the earth of the ocean. But they have complete flexibility and ability to move and allow change and be flexible and agile. So I'm not saying you need to move like a piece of seaweed with your physical body right now, but I want you to bring in the imagery of being kelp in a kelp forest. And we're going to try and keep that energy with us as we move. Go ahead and inhale and open the eyes, and then make yourself at home on your back. By the way, I'm wearing my cap now that winter solstice has passed. Okay. Once you get all situated and settled down on your back,
Go ahead and just have your legs either feet on the ground if it's uncomfortable in your low back. This is going to be your best bet. Feet out wide, knees lean in. If it's okay to extend the legs, that's fine too. They're both really wonderful. One is not better than the other. One's better for your body today, right? So find that one and then just pause. Your eyes can be open or closed, but please don't be looking at the screen. You don't need to see anything. I want you to just take a quick little mental awareness right now of your back body against the floor, particularly your sacrum and the hips. The sacrum is that triangular shaped bone on the back of the pelvis. It's connected to the floor right now, but is it more towards your tailbone or is it more towards your low back? Or in between? Is it a little more to the right side? Is the left side heavier, etc.? And then notice your low back and whether or not it is near the floor or far away from the floor. Again, don't judge it and try to change it. Notice it. You're simply observing right now, so don't move around. And then bring the awareness to the low floating ribs. Are the low floating ribs down on the floor, or are they up off of the floor, or want to lift off the floor, etc.? And again, you can always check the right to left balance. Please do. Checking into your upper back and your shoulder blades and noticing their relationship to the floor, the neck, and the back of the skull. And I went through those a little quicker because the ones I'm the most interested in, of course, is going to be your sacrum, low back, and even leading up a little into the mid-back. So now our very first move is you're going to put your left foot on the ground. If it's not already there, walk it back into about hip distance. And then with that right leg, we're going to move into what we call Baddha Konasana in yogurt, right? So that's a fancy way to say bound angle. And it's just half bound angle. Your right heel just slides gently up, and then it's going to slide gently down. Now try to match that to your breath. Be that slow. Inhale and let that knee move out to the side, or the heel drags up is really the initiator, and let that heel push down. And then that's your pattern. So now go ahead and start doing that for yourself. Again, I will always encourage slow movement, especially with this work. The less muscles we engage, the more beneficial this can be. So moving slow, and also don't worry about hiking the heel up high. Just let it go to a point where it's comfortable before everything engages, and then slide it back down. And for me, that's not very high, right? If I try to go higher than that, then I'm cranking all kinds of muscles to try to pull my heel in. So again, can you be gentle? Can you go with the flow? And if it helps you to think of being a bed of sea kelp right now, right? Go ahead and add that imagery in. And then you're going to go ahead. The next time the right leg moves out to the right, you're going to put the foot on the ground and bring the right knee up, and then extend the left leg. Same thing on the other side. Left heel just gently drags up towards the buttocks. And this is why we're on a blanket, by the way, is this kind of motion. It gives us slidability on a sticky mat. So again, add breath, inhaling up. Make this as much about the breath as it is about the movement. Exhaling down. Pardon me. Don't worry about going high with the heel. Don't worry, please don't worry, but try not to engage all the muscles in the hip socket or the leg in order to make that motion happen. Keep your belly super duper soft. And then finish that off, and you're going to go to whatever leg position was more comfortable for you. Either that extended or feet on the ground, feet wide, lean the knees in. And just pause and notice anything happening through the sacrum, through the hips, through the low back. And I don't know if the relationship to the floor is changing a ton, but you're probably starting to feel a lot of sensation. But it might be. Mine has already shifted a little bit. I'm not quite as heavy on my left side. That's awesome. Now, go ahead and bring that left foot up on the ground again, right? And this time you're going to bring the right leg into Baddha Konasana, half bound angle. It's true, Ardha, Baddha Konasana, right? And then the next time that it does, just let the left leg fall over towards the right. And then the left knee will move up as the right leg extends. So that's our new motion that we're doing. Arms, just wherever they're comfortable and out of the way, really. Shoulders, super soft. And again, be willing to go slow. Be willing to just kind of feel this out. And I joke around, I often talk about, slow your roll. But really, we get so zippy, and that is not very conducive to bringing what's called homeostasis to our central nervous system. So breathing deeply, moving slowly, these are ways we start to retrain our central nervous system. Now the next time you're over in what would be a variation of windshield wiper, right? Go ahead and maybe that left knee is going to swing up a little towards the chest and come back down and extend the right leg out, left knee on the ground. We'll do that about 3 times. Go ahead and same motion to begin with. Right knee moves out, left knee falls over, but then that left knee might swing up a little and back down. You don't have to bring your hand up. I was just trying to point out the movement. You can, you don't have to. And one more time, and swinging that left knee in if that's okay with your hips and your sacrum. And then go ahead and release the legs both out or feet on the ground, right? And then bring the right foot up on the ground or extend the left leg, whichever is right for you. And left leg goes into Baddha Konasana and down. So that's going to keep doing that. And now that right leg's just going to gently fall over towards the left in what would be a variation of windshield wiper. Moving so slow, so mindfully. If something is starting to feel tender, it's where you start to really pay attention to it and figure out how to modify the movement. Maybe the knee doesn't go over and it just stays put. Right? Maybe it goes over but not as far. And then the next time you move over, it's okay to bring the right knee in towards the chest. If the spine says, no way, Jose, or your sciatica or whatever that is, you don't add that piece of it. You just do the first 2 parts, right? And bringing that up and in. I cannot tell you how many times I have taught class, like asking everybody's okay, everybody's low back is okay, everybody's low back is okay, or whatever it is, right? Last one. And then at the end of class, someone comes up and they're like, oh, my low back is really sore, man. I mean, that's okay. And it's like, no, it's not, actually. I love you, but no, it's not. And pause. Now go ahead, and if your feet are extended, by the way, for today, let the knee move out to Baddha Konasana and then bring the foot on the ground. This is some pretty classic Feldenkrais, just as a soft, really gentle way to move. It's less muscular and helps with mobility. So from there, you're going to interlace your hands and bring them behind your head if that's okay with the shoulders. If not, you could just have your arms by the side and leave the upper body out of this. So we're going to do kind of the cat-cow wave, but in a slightly different way. Sorry, I think my microphone's right up in my face. And then from there, you're going to take an inhale, and on an exhale, I want you to pull your low belly down so much your tailbone gets light. Your low back comes down to the floor, and then let that ripple up one vertebrae at a time, and your elbows are going to come up and in once it moves into the neck. And then let the pelvis, the tailbone, move down. Let the back start to arch a little bit, and because of that, it ripples through the mid-spine, the upper spine, the neck, and the elbows come back towards the earth, yeah? So go ahead and move the spine down, pull the low belly down a lot, and let it ripple all the way up through the crown of the head. And then tailbone moves down, low back arches, and because of that, it ripples through the spine, and the arms come down, the head comes down. Go ahead and just follow. That's your new motion. You know it pretty well now. And I'm going to add in a little refinement for today's purposes anyway. You can work it this way, but today I'm going to ask you not to. Don't push your feet down when you pull the belly down. So try to stay out of the feet and try to really make this the deeper abdominal muscles called the transversus abdominis, sometimes called the TA or the TRA. It's called the corset. It has a lot of names. And articulate. So again, don't push into the feet when you pull the belly down, and try to bring it a little more strongly into your core. And then just one other take heed kind of thing. Take heed might be a little strong, but when you're coming up, don't pull the neck, right? The elbows just move in from wherever the neck ends up, and the head hangs back into the hands. They support it. And pause the next time you finish and you're on the ground. Bring those arms out. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to roll onto our belly, and we're going to do a little series from there, and this will be our shorter version. So go ahead and just roll over onto your belly. And at first the toes are untucked or pointed. Your hands are down on the ground. So it's a version of crocodile, but we're going to just stack our hands and not go quite as deep. And I'm going to try to leave my head a little higher just for vocal quality, but you could be much further down, and please don't stare at the screen for this, right? Now try to keep your head down. Try to keep your shoulders soft, leaning away from the ear. And then the right leg, it's going to go into that Baddha Konasana motion again, where the right knee moves out to the side. And then it's just going to slide back down. And right knee, just the right side. And again, if you need to adjust your blanket, hit pause, adjust your blanket. And you're just sliding the same thing we just did, but now we're working with a different relationship to gravity. Yeah? And just as you're moving through, notice the right hip lifts. You're not controlling that. You're allowing that to happen. The left hip's going to drop down a little bit. And then the next time that you're out to the side, leave that right knee out to the side. Pardon me, but I'm going to switch my position so you can see my body just a little bit better for this next direction. So from there, you're going to go ahead and you're going to put your hands on the ground and you're going to dive your left arm through over to the right. So my left arm and my right knee are out to my side body. And then you can support your head with something. I forgot to tell you to have something nearby, but you could have a block or a blanket or whatever that is under your head if it's not comfortable on the floor. Your right hand is going to grab your left wrist. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to pull on that wrist, pull it forward, and in the act of doing that, it's really my ribs that I start to roll open a little bit. Right? So we're just getting a little torque, I'll call it, down but in a nice way. When we think of torque, we often think like we're torquing something. It doesn't have to be that way, right? But if you were in an MRI, and you are scanning from above looking down, what would be happening in your sacrum, your SI joints, your low back, and now we're involving the upper back a little with this one too. We're just breathing from this place. I mean, if you want to let it go a little bit and push into it again, that's always an option. Sometimes I really like to move with my breath. Or you could stay still and hold it. And then from there, you're going to keep the right knee where it is, but you're going to come back towards the upper body crocodile. And then one more piece here before we come out of it, and that is your left knee is now going to slide over to match your right, and it stacks underneath it. So now both of my legs are over to the right in a bent position, and I'm going to push down into the floor, and I'm going to see if I can turn my rib cage a little more, my right rib specifically, down towards the floor, and then I'm going to soften back down, my head on my hands, and breathe. And again, if I had you in an MRI, how would everything have shifted from the pose we were just in? One more breath. This is all such slow, wonderful movement for muscles and fascia and ligaments and tendons. Go ahead and extend the legs back out and just pause, lying on your belly very softly in crocodile. Be willing to move slow, be willing to move gentle, and notice how we can start to get really subtle often. Curl your toes under, push your heels back, thighs lift. Tone the belly up as the tailbone moves down, and then gently pull your arms back to your belly button, and you'll come up into just a baby Bhujangasana, right? People call this cobra all the time, but actually Bhujangasana translates as the serpent pose. If you think of yourself as a piece of kelp in a kelp forest, again, you still have some flow to it, even though we're staying still. And soften down, uncurl the toes. I'm going to change my position one more time, so I'll be a little bit more towards camera for you. The left knee slides out to the left in half bound angle. That's what we're calling it anyway. And that's the pattern for now. So let that left knee just gently slide out again. Don't worry about how high it gets. That's not the point. You'll just notice that gentle movement, that lifting of the left hip, and that little bit of torque, I'm calling it right now. I don't have a better word for it at the moment, in that left SI and hip. You're also affecting your low back, of course. Next time it's up, leave that left leg out and just let the left hip soften down. Take a breath there. And then our right arm is going to dive through, same direction as the left knee. And I don't know how good my mic's going to be here, so I apologize if my vocal quality gets lost. Left hand grabs the right wrist. Bring the head down. I'm leaving mine up so that I'm not laying on my microphone, but please soften your neck. And then as you push that, you're going to pull that right wrist forward. I use it as a way to open up my left rib cage and move into a little twist. Now, don't go extreme with this. Don't be crazy pants. Really, hopefully what you're feeling is how this part of the spine just gets a little bit of a rotation in it. Let it be gentle. Once you're in, yes, there's a little muscular action here in the left hand, but what can you soften and let go of? My left inner groin was just gripping like crazy, I noticed. I softened that. My right buttocks wants to grab in a little bit. I softened that. My jaw, right? So what don't you need to help you right now? And then from there, go ahead and come back to the upper body of crocodile. And then let that right leg scoot over to and under that left knee. So my upper body is in crocodile or a variation thereof, and my knees are just off to the side, stacked and bent into a little bit of a twist. I'm going to push down lightly. So I lift my rib cage. I'm going to see if I can rotate my ribs, my left belly down towards the floor, my left ribs down a little more, and then I'm going to soften my head down and tuning into what I'm holding on to and what I can let go of. And again, if it's helpful, think of yourself being kelp and just going with the flow. And I especially like the image of the kelp when I'm in a still posture or stillness, right? Because there's still hopefully that energetic movement and flow that's happening. Then from there, let the legs move behind you again and lay down into crocodile, upper and lower body. Curl your toes under, push your heels back, thighs lift, tailbone down. Pull your low belly forward towards the hands and the hands back to the low belly and come up into your low cobra. Be willing to stay low. Don't go to a place where you have to feel a lot of sensation. Are you a sensation addict? And I mean that seriously, not jokingly. I know I was for the longest time. And come down. And being in a more flexible body, in certain parts of my body anyway, that caused me to overstretch ligaments and tendons and hang in joints and all kinds of things because I wanted sensation. When actually, many of the times, I needed stability. Okay. Roll onto your side, either side. I'm just going to roll towards camera since I have that. Let me move my mic pack briefly. One more thing, and then we're done here. You're going to lengthen just like an arrow. If you need to support the head, do. That top arm is going to stretch over, and the top leg, again, you're on right or left, whatever works for you. I'm talking top and bottom for this pose. You're going to push that heel, that top heel away as you reach that top arm overhead. Soften the shoulder of the top arm. And then that might feel like plenty for you. You might be feeling like you're getting some extension and some space on that front body or side. Maybe that top leg, that foot, you bend the knee and the foot comes back. It's almost like you're moving to tree pose, but it comes to the floor behind you. And then think about lengthening through that top hip line, right? Keeping that knee, it's not moving back, but it's just moving away on the diagonal. And then this one may or may not make sense, but I'm not going to face plant, but I'm just going to roll my ribs just gently down a little bit to see if I can't get a little extra stretch somewhere in that top side or front body. Again, you can pulse in and out, or you can stay in stillness. Think about that kelp, and it's constantly just going with the flow, moving with the waves of the ocean. The waves of energy for us in our body. And go ahead and release that. You can roll onto your back or your belly, and you're going to come to the other side. Pardon me for facing away from you, but it might be informative on this particular pose to see the other side too. So go ahead and extend, lengthen out like an arrow. Again, the top leg pushes away that heel, and the top arm reaches away, but we keep the shoulders soft. And this might be plenty for you. Maybe that top knee bends, that foot comes back. By the way, this is that Baddha Konasana stuff that we were doing on the ground. And then from there, as you push into the foot, you're going to reach the knee away from you towards the foot side, even as you maybe gently roll your ribs down just slightly, the top ribs towards the ground. Again, I don't go in very far, 20 degrees if even, right? So it's pretty subtle, but hopefully you feel that little shift in that top side waist, or might be in the hip, front of the hip a little bit, or wherever you feel it. And then wherever you are, release that, roll onto your back body. And for the last few moments together here, while laying down, we'll come up and we'll say namaste. But for the last few moments, as you lay down, find your legs wherever you started class. So even if it feels like you could extend them, but you started with feet on the ground, still go there for just a moment. And just notice your relationship of your back body to the floor, especially your pelvis and your low back, right? And just notice if it feels any differently than it did when we started. Let's take about 8 breaths here, 8 to 10, which is about 1 minute. Eyes closed and just really tuning into the physical sensations in the body. And then if you want to wiggle the fingers or reach the arms overhead, we're going to get up just a little different today. You're going to keep your right arm overhead, left arm can be as well, right? And then you're going to let the right leg move into Baddha Konasana, what we already did. And then go ahead and roll over onto your right side body, and you can bring that other leg up into fetal position. Left hand can come in front of the chest, and then gently push that floor away and come on up to seated, kneeling upright. And again, if you started one way, it wouldn't be a terrible thing to end that way. Again, just as an evaluation. We did our evaluation of what it felt like against the floor and if that was any differently, but just noticing if it's a little easier to sit in any capacity. Maybe it's more difficult. Nothing is either good or bad. Only thinking makes it so. Bring the hands together in front of the chest. Inhale. And exhale, bow your head in. Take a moment of gratitude that you gave yourself the space and time. And again, maybe imagining that kelp. And as we move through this holiday season and everything is different and there's still a lot of tension or nerves or sadness and there's loss and there's all of these things, right? Can we still be that kelp as we move through all of those feelings and emotions and let them still rise, let them still come at us like waves in the ocean, and we just get to go with that flow. Namaste. It's that time of year, friends. It was winter solstice yesterday of when I taped this. So happy winter solstice, happy great conjunction, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, all the businesses. I'll still be around this week, so hopefully we'll see you around. Love you.